Last time on Paranormal Portal.
I can't wait to make this a podcast later. That's going to be a little bit of editing involved, but again, that's how I roll.
I'm a big fan of using trigger objects as long as you know who you're dealing with or what kind of ghost you're dealing with.
I always find the ones, like some of the trigger objects I think are just in poor taste. Like, let's hang a noose up on a rafter because this is where the person hung themselves. It's like, no, that's not a good idea.
Yeah, let's not do that.
Yeah, I think at the Velisca axe murder house that there was on the Ghost Adventures episode, Zach Baggins literally laid down and had like the axe just sitting there. He's like, chop my head off now, David. I would not go that approach.
No, yeah. Jeez. All right,
because the best case scenario is also the worst case scenario.
It worked. I had to find a new host. Aaron's time to shine.
It's Aaron's adventures after that. Hey everybody, and welcome to the Paranormal Portal Podcast. I'm your host, Brent Thomas. Thank you all for joining us, and special thank you goes out to all of you who continue to support the podcast and continue to spread the word. Always remember, if any of you out there have experiences of your own that you'd like to share, feel free to email me at paranormalportalradio@gmail.com. Again, paranormalportalradio@gmail.com, and you too could be a guest on the show. All right, from David Zeismer in the chat, he said, what's the most scary thing that you guys got?
Well, I would say
For me?
Go ahead.
For me, it was the EVP at Emily's Bridge on the voice recorder.
Okay.
That was terrifying.
Yeah, we briefly discussed that. We had you on our show.
Oh, okay.
But Emily's Bridge up in Vermont, covered bridge, very haunted. Or it was supposed to be. We didn't expect to find much, but Dave got this EVP, and we had also seen some shadows moving around on that bridge. It's pretty cool. Dave, tell them about how manly you were. And
so just to set the stage of this place, because Jesse did such a shit job of explaining what we thought we were getting when we went there. We went to investigate this hotel and to investigate Emily's Bridge, which could it be haunted? There's a story. It could be an urban legend, and something that we can talk about later is like how important the haunting for a town is because of the history you learn. But we went there and we expected to hopefully get some evidence at the hotel. And I think it was a consensus that we were going to go to this covered bridge and we were going to get nothing because we were sure that this was all an urban legend and nothing was going to happen there. And between Dave's EVP and whatever me and Jesse saw, it was one of the most terrifying nights of our lives investigating, maybe because it was unexpected, but I was scared to death as we were just standing right outside that covered bridge.
Wow.
Yeah, so the EVP that we got, we were just testing the equipment. We just got there, and I had a spirit box and a voice recorder, but I didn't even have the spirit box out yet. I was just checking the voice recorder to make sure it works, just asking some cursory questions. And I forget off the top of my head what the questions were, but when I played the thing back, there was a clear female voice that said, what we think to be behind you. So it completely threw me off guard.
Yeah, it could have been behind you. Others thought it said, I'll find you, which I think is a little more concerning. But both are equally terrifying. It was it's what us in the field call a Class A EVP. It was very, very clear. A little bit distant, but you could make it out what it was said. And this bridge was so surprising to all of us because this was like a pit stop, right? We were going up there we had a room at the Green Mountain Inn. We were going to go investigate that. We got the haunted room at the haunted hotel. We managed to book it. We set that up ahead of time. We're like, sick. We're going to investigate this room all night. We got a little bit in that room, but later on in the night, we're like, all right, let's make our pit stop over to the bridge. And we got so much so fast. And it was crazy. And it started with the equipment malfunctioning as well. The reason Dave was tinkering around with his electronic devices was because everything was malfunctioning the second we got there. And it started with my night vision camera. I couldn't get the thing to turn on for the life of me. Battery was fully charged. We were using it at the hotel. Got to the bridge, didn't work. Couldn't get it to turn on at all. It was weird because it was one of the GoPros, so like the Wi-Fi. I don't know if it's just on the older models, but there's a light that blinks consistently when the little Wi-Fi signal is on the camera. That was still blinking, but the thing just wouldn't power on. Pop the battery out, pop it back in, nothing would work. As soon as we get away from the bridge, get back to the hotel, thing fires right up like nothing was wrong in the first place. Yeah. So it was like 2 or 3 different devices that were acting up on that bridge all at the same time.
That's crazy.
And just to show you how professional we are, as soon as Dave hears the voice, he runs and shuts the camera off instead of continuing to record. So that was great.
Well, the recording was already done. I was playing it back. There was nothing.
It was a veteran move.
And I was running back because I was so excited to show you.
Okay. That's what I was
scared of.
He was actually running just to make sure that you weren't too scared, Rob.
He was skipping with the ghost to show us together. Yeah, I'm sure that's what it was.
Exactly.
Locations like that, I think, are pretty interesting because it's kind of like the hotels. It seems like every hotel has the jilted bride, and every bridge has the baby that was dumped, and or any number of different stories like that. And I don't think they can all be true, but there are literally thousands of these bride stories in hotels, and very much the same for the bridges. And I kind of wonder if the belief doesn't create the event in some cases, and not that there couldn't be an intelligence to it, but maybe it plays a role, based on what people are expecting. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
No, it does. And it kind of goes to, so we just covered Sloss Furnaces Tuesday down in Alabama. And if you dig into the history of this place, there is some really bad stuff that happened to workers that fell into the furnace and lost their lives, and brutally lost their lives. And if you look up Sloss Furnaces, all you're going to find is the story of a night foreman named Slag, who 47 people died during his time working there. The problem is he never existed.
Oh,
it wasn't
really?
a thing. It was made up. But there has been so much paranormal location at this place that I think the story was made up to explain the paranormal events, which kind of sucks in a way, because then you have skeptics that'll be like, well, this story is clearly made up. It's like, yeah, but look at the 20 other people that passed away here. Right. There was a suspected murder on location, and there's been over 100 calls to the police station and documented paranormal activity in this place. That's just crazy. But because you have this one story that was made up to try to basically name the presence that's there, it takes away, because any skeptic is just going to go, nope, because this story is not real. None of it's real. And it's sad that places do that. Hopefully that's on topic of what
we talked about that. We discussed that on the Queen Mary episode that you were on too, which was basically, there's so many good stories here. Why make up ones just to add to it? It's just pointless. Like, you have such a cool, scary location. But I think more so what you were talking about was, if enough people believe that something's real, then something can be born out of that.
Sure. Right.
Is that what you were talking about?
I mean, it's kind of an enigma, right?
Kind of like a mass hysteria type thing.
Right, like a generation, that if enough people put this fear and energy into something, that could it become, in and of itself an entity, or does something adopt that? I'm not really sure what to think of it, because I don't obviously understand the mechanics of it, but it just really boggles my mind. It's how does every bridge have this crying baby sound? And, when people investigate, they catch these amazing proofs that seem to substantiate the legend, which when you look into it never actually happened. But, something generated that sound that was absolutely sounding like a baby. So it's like the legend becomes real just by virtue of people believing in the legend. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Right. And I think if you have enough people concentrated in one area that fully believe in it, and if they are absolutely terrified, they're giving off that fear, that energy, I think that something could be born out of that, or it could wake up something that had nothing to do with that haunting that they all believe is real, and boom, all that, this entity that's sitting there lying in wait is going to feed off that energy and then is able to manifest or create some sort of a haunt.
Right.
Same thing with like equipment being drained. The equipment drains because the theory is that some sort of a spirit or a ghost is using that energy, pulling that energy to manifest itself or to create some sort of a haunt for a brief period of time before it needs to go get its energy from something else. So cameras are dying,
sure,
laptops are dying, phones are dying. Boom, now you have something haunted, which is sometimes unfortunate because, damn, something haunted is happening and my camera's dead. But, I think it could be the same idea.
It is. But the other enigma with that is that, and I might have touched on this when I was on your show too, but it's the battery drain issue like you're talking about with that didn't matter what you did, you could not get that to work. But as soon as you left the location, it's working fine. And
yeah.
So many people are like, oh, my battery's down to 0. I just charged it. I just put it in. It's brand new. And then they leave that room or part of that location and suddenly the battery meter's at full again. So it really does seem to authenticate that there is some form of EM disturbance that happens in proximity to these events, for whatever reason. And I don't pretend to know, but it is very curious. We do have another question in the chat, actually a couple of them, but the first one is from Rachel Gets It Right. Do you think house structure has something to do with the intensity of the hauntings? No foundation built off the ground versus house with stone foundation versus what does that say? Poured concrete foundations. So
absolutely.
Okay.
Dave's definitely the one to answer this, but Jesse, if you want to just go into the entire construction of how a house is built, you can do that as well.
Well, some of the houses are powered by nuclear energy. And the way nuclear energy works is fission. Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
Settle down. Yes, that's an awesome question. I think absolutely, and it's particularly with stone foundations because of the energy that stones retain naturally. So if you're a fan of the stone tape theory, there's a theory that specific kinds of stones which retain more heat will retain hauntings, basically. So limestone, granite, marble, all these stones are known scientifically to retain heat. So when somebody dies, your body releases energy in the form of heat, and that energy gets absorbed into the stones that naturally do that. So if you have a stone foundation, like I do, I think that absolutely would elevate the chances of you having a haunted house.
Also, the quartz content in every one of those stones you named is real high. And certainly that would work energetically as well. Potentially like a battery. Yeah, that's a great take. I think you're right.
It's interesting because with a lot of these hauntings we have the stone tape theory. I don't think anyone's really revealed why a haunting will replay itself or what could trigger that to affect. But what you do have in a ton of stories is the same thing that repeats itself over and over again is when a house is being renovated, all of a sudden paranormal activity goes through the roof.
Yeah.
And a lot of people equate this to, well, that's because the ghost is pissed off that you're changing its house from what it knows, which very well may be the case in some of these situations. But I think it's more about the fact that when you're breaking up these stones, you're releasing whatever energy was trapped inside of that. And, whether it's just old water or old energy or whatever escaping, boom, all of a sudden, a lot of these cases, you have a very brief period where there's a huge elevation in hauntings. Like a ton of crazy stuff is going on to a point where entire construction crews have been known to walk off of these job sites because they're like, this place is so haunted, I can't do it anymore. They're messing with my tools. They push Gary off a ladder. Gary sprained his ankle. We got to take Gary to the hospital. We're not coming back.
Poor Gary.
Luckily, no one liked Gary.
No one likes Gary.
My apologies to any Garys out there listening.
I like Gary.
I'm not going to say you deserve to sprain your ankle by falling off a ladder at the job site, but just don't be scared of the ghosts.
Yeah.
It's going to happen, but it usually calms down after that short period of time.
Yeah.
Because basically like whatever was released just kind of evaporates into thin air or whatever.
Oh, that's a great take.
It all goes back to foundation, the structure of the house, and the stone tape theory, if you will.
Yeah, very good take. We got another question from Aggravated Progressive. Do y'all think you're more sensitive to phenomena now?
I wouldn't say more sensitive per se.
Okay.
Maybe more open to seeing what is there.
More open and more aware is the way that I would put it. So that I think that I was probably always a bit sensitive to this stuff, but
Sure.
Now that I'm aware of it and also kind of know what I'm looking for a little bit, I think it's a little easier to not get stuff because it has to happen, right? You can't. I'm not manifesting anything, but I think it's just being more aware of what I'm looking for.
Mm. Yeah, I think it's like anything
knowing
else.
What to look for.
Yeah, it's like anything else where the more that we practice, the better you're going to get, the more professional you're going to get. You know, you're not going to pick up a basketball and just start dunking right away. You got to work at it. So
I mean, some of us did.
Some of us aren't tall enough to do that, Rob.
Yeah, well,
me and Dave.
No, I think those are great takes. So, how many locations have you guys investigated at this point?
I haven't started keeping count. Have you guys? I'm not really sure.
No, that's a good question. We'll see if we could figure it out. So we've done Rob's Bridgewater house.
I would say it's, well, yeah. I mean, there's ones that we like really investigate, and then there's ones that we've visited and kind of. Yeah, I mean, we could
Conjuring house. We've done Emily's Bridge.
I would say
Green
north
Mountain Inn. Maybe 12, 13.
Yeah, I would say it's definitely north of 10, probably 15-ish. And then if you count all the unofficial ones that we've just visited, then I don't know. It's pretty high up there. There's also ones that we've gone back to multiple times. We've done the USS Salem multiple times. We've done the Hawthorne Hotel multiple times. So
true.
We've done this a whole lot.
Probably closer to 20.
Yeah, but if you want to count the amount of times that different locations probably. And I do think we've done Rob's house like 20 times alone at least. So we've done a lot of these
every night.
Yeah. No choice.
No, that's true. Now, you did mention the Conjuring house. How did that go?
I would say that for me, although we got some evidence there, that house for us specifically was the biggest learning experience that we've had investigating. And that house in particular, if you go to the Conjuring house, it is a very scary house. It is very creepy looking. Inside is very creepy, but there is no insulation anywhere in that house. If you're in one corner and I'm in the other corner, as far away as can be, I could probably hear you whisper.
Oh.
So noise contamination in that house is very tough to deal with. You hear literally everything going on. So we were with too large of a group that particular time. Like I said, we still got some evidence. We still got some stuff. I personally would like to go back to the Conjuring house with just the three of us.
Now, I know it's under new ownership now, isn't it? I mean, didn't that just change hands not too far ago?
Yeah.
It did.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it did.
Is it still available for investigations?
As far as I know, the new owners do still book it out for paranormal investigations. I would go a different route than we did. We just had too many people in the house when we did it. Like Rob said, it was a learning experience. So this was like one of the first ones, actually, when we had first started doing this show. We went out there with a big group of people. It is an unbelievably creepy house. Like it really was scary. And we did catch some evidence. Again, we were kind of new at it, so we did a few things. I would do it a lot differently this time around. But that basement was, there's something undeniably in the basement of that house. You can just feel it when you go down there. And then it was like towards the end of the night, actually the next morning, because we were there throughout the night and then into the morning, I went back in. I'm like, let me just make sure I got pictures of every room. And I went through each room and I'm taking pictures. And when I was alone in that house, this was the first time through the whole thing I was actually alone. I was horrified, dude. It was just a whole different feeling. And I was like, I am now terrified. And I'm like basically running to each room just to grab the pictures real quick and get out of the house. I was like, wow, I didn't feel this the entire night. We were there all night. Didn't feel it at all until I was solo. And then I felt like every room was just watching me. I could feel eyeballs on me. And there was some interesting stuff that happened there. They had there was one team, I was in the next room over, but I heard a toy hit the ground and then they all freaked out and they were like, oh my God, that little toy car just completely rolled over and just rolled off the this dresser that it was sitting on. It was pretty cool to see. And then we got some pretty big spikes on the EMF detector and some interesting spirit box stuff. But I'd love to do it again. We would just go about it a different way.
No, that brings up an interesting point. Do you, I think the answer is probably self-explanatory, but do you feel that the smaller the group, the more activity you would have, or does the body count matter? What is your take on that when you go into investigations with a big crew versus a skeleton crew?
I don't think it affects the amount of haunting that is there or the amount of activity. Okay. I think it affects your ability to hear it and to catch it and to notice it. It's just too distracting.
That's a good take. Yep.
It could be both, though, because it could be feeding off the energy of more bodies inside the building. So if it's a bigger location, I would like to go with a bigger team. But if it's a smaller location, I would like to scale down just off of, I don't want noise contamination, just on that alone. Right. So, but it's interesting because with more people, it could be a more active night. It's just harder to tell what's ghost and what's, Gary falling off a ladder in the other room for some reason.
Damn Gary.
We don't bring Gary ever anymore.
Don't bring Gary. Don't leave him home.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's crazy.
Now clear your minds. It knows what scares you. It has from the very beginning. Don't give it any help. It knows too much already.
We got a couple of comments here again. David Zeismer asks, what is your most favorite place that you guys have been to, and would you go back again?
My favorite. So the Conjuring houses it was my favorite leading up to it. It was the one I was the most excited for. It had the scariest setting. It's set way deep in the woods. The house is from the 18th century, and it is just everything about this situation was terrifying. I would love to do this one again. Just like we've been saying for the past 10 minutes, is we'd like to do it again and with a smaller group, because that house is really cool. And there was a significant amount of activity there, considering how big of a group it was that was with it. So for me, it's probably the Conjuring house.
Okay.
Yeah, for me, it's probably the Emily Morgan Hotel. We did that out in San Antonio, Texas, and that was such a cool hotel. I would like to work something out in the future, like with the hotel, to see if we can secure like I don't know, maybe in the off season or something like that, try to secure like a whole floor or something to do something bigger. But everyone in that building that works there had a ghost story. It's super old. It's built basically, I don't know if you're familiar with the Emily Morgan Hotel, but it's basically built on the grounds of the old long barracks of the Alamo. Like you walk out the front door, you're at the Alamo. So it's got a ton of history to it. It used to be a hospital. But you have a bunch of deaths that happened on site. There's plenty of reasons for it to be haunted, and there's just endless ghost stories that have happened there. So it's still an active hotel, and it's an awesome city.
So for me, I would say visually, the Conjuring house and Emily's Bridge were the two like terrifying just visually. In terms of investigating, I think the Oliver House was one of our scarier investigations. I'd like to redo the Oliver House, and I'll throw a bonus one in for places we've covered on the show that we haven't gone yet. The Sally House is my number one location that I'd like to go and investigate.
Yeah, there's so many great locations. There's one in Tennessee that I think would be fun to check out. And it's one that I'm actually inquiring on right now. It's called Brushy Mountain. And I want to get up there. And that would be a huge location. So, again, another crossover episode. Could be a crossover investigation.
Yeah, we could do that. We actually covered Brushy a couple weeks ago on the show. And we brought in a guy named Jake the Viking. He used to work
with Mr. Beast.
Yeah. So we had brought him in. He actually had gone there and done an investigation there, and he's definitely down to go back. So maybe we could link up everybody, do a big old reunion. That'd be fun.
Yeah, let me know if you guys pull that together. I'll rollerblade there if I have to.
No, that's definitely.
There's got to be a faster way.
Probably, but I'm just saying that's how much it means to me.
But is there a more athletic way? No, I don't think so.
Probably not. No, I'd probably cut some weight on the way. I'm just saying. I mean, it's not easy to look this good, guys. You got to put away lots of calories.
Yeah, I gotta take notes. I'll send you a message. I want some tips.
Very good. And there's another one here. From Chucky Danger says, have the guys tried an investigation in the forest, perhaps national parks where people go missing?
So we have not done anything in the forest yet, but what I will say is we are planning to eventually do a Bridgewater Triangle episode. And if we do a Bridgewater Triangle episode, that's not an if. When we do a Bridgewater Triangle episode, we will probably do the Freetown State Forest and investigate the Freetown State Forest. which is the home of plenty ghost stories, plenty of terrible things that have happened there, and plenty of cult activity. So if we're not there on a Tuesday night at 9 p.m., we were abducted by a cult and sacrificed.
These things happen.
We have not exclusively investigated a forest, but we have investigated woods surrounding locations that we've investigated, like the Oliver House. We did a session out in the woods behind there. Same thing with the Conjuring House. We did a session out in the woods. So we haven't exclusively done a haunted forest, but we've
actually gone through and filmed at the Freetown State Forest, but not really an investigation. So I'm up for it. It's just, that's another one that's tricky. It's like a whole different kind of investigation. So what we did outside the Oliver House is we had the FLIR thermal camera, and we were kind of looking for like heat signatures, and we didn't catch anything on the thermal camera, but we did catch like a weird red light that was kind of off in the distance. And there wasn't a road in that direction. It was just forest. And then the light kind of just slowly disappeared, and we never saw it again. And we had it on camera. It's in the episode, and it was kind of interesting. We didn't know what it was, but didn't see it again, didn't have an explanation for it. So, but investigating in the woods is such a different, a whole different ball game. I mean, how can you really, I mean, I guess EVPs, you could get some sort of a voice to come through, but you're dealing with a whole different level of noise contamination, wind, animals. It's very tricky.
But you're getting less interference with other electronic devices too. Yep. So you're getting more of an unadulterated investigation.
Yeah, I think there's definitely that. Certainly, Woodland investigations, I suppose, logistically they're a lot more difficult, but I think you also run the risk of running into things you weren't anticipating, like
coyotes.
Well, Bigfoot.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, going out there or Dogman or whatever, especially over on the East Coast. There's plenty of Dogman reports. Have you ever thought about getting into the cryptids at all in what you're doing?
Well, actually, we were just talking about the Oliver House outside the woods. The reason that we were exploring the woods is because they had a whole bunch of reports of puckwudgies outside in the woods by the Oliver House. Have you heard of puckwudgies before?
Oh, yeah. We've covered them many times on the shows. They're apparently diabolical little bastards.
They are little sneaky guys. So we didn't find any.
Well,
but we went out there. That's one of like the phenomenons inside the Bridgewater Triangle. Puckwudgies, Bigfoot sightings, pterodactyls, Thunderbirds. The usual stuff, UFOs. So you want, hey, if you're ever in Massachusetts and you want to jump into some cryptids, then Bridgewater Triangle is the place to be.
Yeah, I have no question. And Pennsylvania is a hot spot. I mean, you got so many of them over there. There's so much going on. It's just incredible. And that's the thing with this, is that there's no finite amount of things you can look into. I think it just works out logistic. And that's what I'm really impressed with you guys, is that, you're getting out there and you're doing all of this stuff. You're putting together these robust shows. You're doing the podcast off of your YouTube shows. I mean, I'm just so impressed with how much you guys are accomplishing.
Oh, thank you.
I mean, you guys are chasing it like you're a huge show with, hundreds of thousands of subscribers and stuff. And I mean, I just really respect that. And I think it won't be long till you get there because of the energy you guys put into it and stuff. But I just really am become a fan of what you're doing, as well as, a friendship. I think it's just exciting.
I appreciate that. I mean, we do hope that it takes off. If not, then we've wasted a ton of time, but we've made a lot of awesome friends in the process. I mean, like, there's a lot of our chat that's in your chat right now. These guys are amazing. They're there every Tuesday on time, and they always show love. So if we didn't have that support group behind it, as crazy as it sounds, because we're talking about, like 50 or 60 people that might watch us on a Tuesday night, when we have thousands that listen to the podcast, it's more about, for me anyways, it's about these guys that show up every week and they're there and are in chat and in the Discord and interacting. It looks like you have the same thing with your community. Like, these guys all seem to know each other. They seem awesome. And that's like what keeps me going anyways for this whole thing, is just, building relationships with these people and trying to get them content and everything like that. So
Absolutely. We get another question in the chat. Rachel Gets It Right asks, aside from anywhere in the North American continent, what place in the world, Asia, Africa, Europe, have you heard of and would like to investigate if possible?
Get me anywhere in Europe. There's so many old castles we've covered. Leap Castle in Ireland seems like a really cool one. We've checked out, well, we haven't physically been there, but the Chillingham Castle up in northern England. Another one.
Poveglia is at the top of my list in Italy. That whole island looks amazing. It's a bit off limits, but it seems like if you pay the right guy with a boat, he'll take you over there. So that one's definitely on the list. I'm heading to Greece this summer, so I'm going to look into haunted places out there and see if I can get some sort of footage and put together an episode while I'm out there.
For me, it's Japan. Not a specific place, but Japanese culture with ghosts is very fascinating. Just looking into some of their history with that stuff, some of their stories with like Onryos and stuff like that has been really fascinating. And another great part of doing this show is just learning so much about these locations and finding these cultures and stuff. So some Japanese place that is haunted would be probably towards the top of my list, but like Dave mentioned, those castles seem like very cool to investigate as well.
Yeah, and this is technically in the North American continent, but I would also love to get over to the Aztec pyramids in Mexico City. I think that would be an awesome one to check out.
Yeah, I think those kind of places are absolutely fascinating because you just think of all of that history and all of that things that happened and transpired, and it's, you know, we're generally thinking in terms of hundreds of years, but you're dealing with thousands of years. And I think I was watching, it was years and years ago. It might have been Ghost Adventures. And I think they went to Pompeii and they did an investigation, and they were using a FLIR, and they caught an actual, very good, it looked like, and again, I don't know how overproduced this was or whatever, just from the outside looking in, but it looked like a really good apparition walking between a couple of the stone pillars, and it was cold. It wasn't hot like a person would have been. It was cold, but it was a definite silhouette of a human being moving from, I think it was from left to right. And I was like, man, you know, just lingering. Did you ever wonder, what are they doing? You know, I mean,
a little bit. It's hard to fake things on the thermal camera, especially when it's cold, not hot. Yeah. Because you could send someone from the crew to go walk by, right? And that's usually your first thought is like, oh, that's just somebody on the crew that they're like, all right, Gary, go walk by the tree and, you know, we'll get you on camera. But when it's a cold, like, how do you do that?
Right.
Put Gary in an ice bath. Take Gary out of the ice bath, then have him walk by the tree. I don't know how you get something to show up as a cold apparition.
Yeah, I don't know either. But I think about that. What are these apparitions? Because, and again, it's all speculation, but we think in terms of, well, is it unfinished business? Is it trauma? Is it something? What keeps them anchored? And how long do they stay? You know, I mean, are there still plenty of apparitions and things in these medieval castles? And it would seem that they are, but are they just truly stuck? Or are they earthbound spirits or something else that was never human? I don't know. That's the way my head works with this stuff, because I would like to think that if they used to be people, that you would reach a point where, okay, you settled all that stuff. Now it's, you know, you move on. But if you're talking like 1,000 years or 2,000 years or whatever, it's like, well, how long does it take? What's going on there? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Our favorite thing to say on the show is we don't make the rules, but I think it could be different with each one. I think there's some that could just fade over time or become less active over time. I think there's some that are a residual hunt that will just repeat this motion forever. And then there could be, I don't know, how do you really solve it? You know, it's kind of, it's tricky to say, but my estimated or my educated guess would be that each spirit is probably a little bit different in its own way.
Yeah, I think that's a good take. Yeah. Any Rob or Dave, do you got any opinions on that? I'm just curious.
It's hard to, I don't really know where I stand on it. I don't even know what I would say a ghost is. Mm-hmm. Is it just residual energy left over from when somebody died? Is it completely absent any sort of intelligence? Do demons exist? Are there malign non-human entities that have been here longer than us? It's hard to say one way or another. I think there's something. I just don't know what it is.
Right.
So I'm that's what like me, a natural skeptic who's out here to learn everything I can about this because I find it absolutely fascinating. There's still so much to learn, and there's not a definite science out there because scientists they can't study it without being ostracized or ridiculed. So that's why a lot of them don't.
Right.
But I was reading
aggravated progressives comment that says we don't make the rules, we measure the phenomenon.
That's cool.
That's good. Yeah,
that is good.
I like that.
Yeah, I'm kind of on the same boat. I mean, all the cars on the highway are driving, but they don't all have the same destination, right? Or same set of destinations or how they're going to get there. So it's more about, I think everything has to be taken on a case-by-case basis.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, I keep looking for answers, and I don't know if they'll ever have any or if there are any to have. I mean, maybe it's just not something that's understandable in our experience or in our intelligence or whatever, but it is curious that so many of them seem to have, so much intelligence. And then others just seem to be these, wandering apparitions. They're just the residual kind of stuff, and what's different, what's the same, are they the same thing? And then you talk about things like the shadow people and these other types of creatures, the elementals, and add description here, and it's hard to understand, but I think that all of this is incredibly exciting because it's demonstrating physics standing on their head. These things are happening that just can't happen, quote unquote. They can't happen. Things can't move without being acted by a force. Well, and that's probably still true, but we just don't understand the force being applied to them. Like, when you go and you see that ball move, I mean, something is creating that movement, but how? It's not a physical mechanic, so it must be something energetic. And is that going to be measurable? What do you guys think about the technology that we use for investigating? Do you think we're on the right track with the whole EMF and magnetic medias to record with, or do you think this will be evolving differently through technology, or what do you think?
I'm not sure if asking the guys that couldn't figure out Skype 15 minutes ago is the right. No, I think a lot of the equipment is really good and comes a long way. And but I'll let Dave answer it. He's a little bit better.
I think if we're basing it on the idea that a ghost is residual energy left over from when a human dies, then this is probably the best equipment available, at least currently. Because you're measuring energy. You're measuring energy in places where energy shouldn't exist. And if energy's there where it shouldn't exist, then what is it? It's a phenomenon. So until that equipment evolves, I think we're currently using the best stuff available.
Yeah, I think it's exciting, especially when the advent of the FLIR technology finally filtering out of law enforcement and military, that average people could get their hands on FLIR devices without needing to sell a kidney or something first. I mean, that was a huge revelation. But and that's another thing to add to the toolkit. But what fascinates me, I think, is the idea that we're making probably a lot of assumptions, but there does seem to be detectable EM fields at work throughout a lot of this phenomena. But why then can't we take like a K2 meter and just, put it to our chest and see, it light up with your heartbeat or something, I mean, if we are the same stuff inside that these things are, and maybe it's being in a meat suit changes it, I don't know. But I don't know. I'm probably being way too theoretical here, and but it's just
there's something there. But I feel like after you die, that energy does leave your body. So maybe it's easier for something like a K2 meter to pick up on that energy when it's just pure energy, right? So the theory with ghosts is the energy leaves your body, and these energies are just floating around, which is why you use this kind of technology to detect them. So it's probably harder to poke my fat body and find my energy spirit inside with a K2 meter than it is to, just find one that's just pure ghost.
Sure. But what I would add to it is the tools are good, but you need to know how to use the tools, and learning how to use the tools is important. I watched an investigation today where a guy used an EMF meter and he put it right up next to a light switch. And he's like, wow, we already have this much popping off on the EMF meter. And I'm just like, I started smashing my head against the coffee table because I'm like, dude, you're right next to an electrical source where you're getting all that feedback.
Yeah.
This is what the device is built to do.
Yeah. You're literally doing what its original purpose, and you're finding the electricity from the electrical source. Like, so and it's not to shame. It's to know what you're doing.
Yeah. The best tool in a paranormal investigation is the paranormal investigator. It's being open to finding stuff and knowing how to use the equipment that you have, even if you go in with limited equipment. When we went to the Houghton Mansion, we showed up with like nothing because we didn't know what we were doing. We had a couple video cameras and like a spirit box, and we ended up like hitting a Walmart and grabbing some voice. Thank God they had stuff. We found some voice recorders. Sure. You know, this is like our first ever like real investigation, so we ended up equipping ourselves. But over time you'll get better with the stuff. But definitely, all of this stuff. You buy a piece of ghost equipment off Amazon or wherever you get it. Look into it before you use it. Search it on YouTube. Watch some paranormal shows. But, you get a full breakdown on certain, on YouTube of how to properly use certain kinds of equipment.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a good take.
Hello? Have you checked the children?
Jill, this is Sergeant Sacker. We've traced the call. It's coming from inside the house. Jill, just get out of that house.
Question from Chucky Danger. Funniest experience on a ghost hunt?
There's
a few.
There's so many. I think, and we honestly, we share these with our Patreon members.
Oh,
we will put up some of our behind the scenes stuff that's happened that's funny. Whether there's one clip from one of the places that we investigated recently where Jesse is just losing his mind trying to figure out where this noise is coming from. And his brother Andrew comes walking in the room. And it's like, oh my God, it was Andrew. But just the way it was hysterical.
Yeah.
I think so. This is going to get off topic a little bit, but I think we like to have fun, right? Like, so we're taking this serious. We're doing it serious, but we also, as I'm sure you've picked up by being on our show and us being on your show, we're going to joke around a bit. We're going to have fun. Sure. We have personalities. That's who we are. And we do think that some of the paranormal community doesn't like that. They think that we're not taking it seriously, but we are taking everything we do seriously. But we are friends. We are out there to investigate, to get solid evidence. But funny stuff happens, and we're gonna embrace it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and if you mess up, we're just going to absolutely make fun of you. Like, this is just the way we are with each other. And some people that are new to the show, like, wow, these guys really hate Dave. And we do, but not as much as we hate Gary.
Yeah.
So I ran out of the room because I wanted to answer one other question, which was about the books. I don't mean to take over the
take
hosting.
over.
But could we answer Rachel's question?
Yeah. Rachel says, do you have any recommendation of books that have either one haunting account or a collection of short account stories of paranormal encounters?
Yeah. I did the same thing. My personal favorites are, my go-to for any time anyone asks this question is a book called Demonic Foes by Richard Gallagher, MD. And I find this book so fascinating because he is a practicing MD psychiatrist who has a practice. I know it's redundant. I just said he's practicing, but he has a practice, and he was confronted by his friend who said, I got a priest who needs your help on these investigations, on these exorcisms. And this guy, being a medical doctor, said, you sure you want me? And the reason that the priest wanted him was because he wanted him to be able to weed out the people that were experiencing mental illness rather than a demonic possession. So he said, okay, I will sit in on some of these. And you take a guy who was a skeptic, not a skeptic, but basically a scientist who says that the paranormal can't exist, starts going to these exorcisms and writes a book about how blown his mind was about some of the instances that he had. So I can't recommend this book enough. Demonic Foes by Richard Gallagher. He talks about some crazy exorcism that he's seen, and he's talked about some ones that he was actually able to help people with their mental illness. So you get a lot of both sides.
Very cool. Yeah. I've heard of him, and I think that's awesome. And I have a friend who's a Catholic priest who I've met through interviewing him a few times for the shows. But, there is a real criteria to narrowing this down, because of course mental illness can look like possession and vice versa, and I've often wondered how many people are sitting in asylums or have sat in asylums that actually weren't crazy, but they were just being tormented, by some unseen energy. And it's just,
it's possible. And if the resources aren't there, then they're going to keep them there until they figure out what's wrong with them or try to anyways.
Yeah, exactly. I
have a few books actually. I have,
please.
A few recommendations. This one is, The Horrors of Fox Hollow Farm. Mm-hmm. So it covers, a serial killer. And then it also goes into the hauntings that followed inside the house. That one's a real interesting one. That's by Richard Estep, who's actually written, or it might be Estep, I'm not sure, but he's written a bunch of good ones. The second one is the Sally House Haunting. Oh. Highly recommend that one. This is a very good book. And then I have a whole library of them, but these were just 4 that I grabbed because they covered one. This is all about just one case individual. So if you want to read a whole book about one case, this one was really crazy. This is it's called This House is Haunted by Guy Lyon Playfair, and that covers the Enfield poltergeist out in England. And that case this whole thing is like a full walkthrough of almost all of the paranormal investigation that they got over, I think it was 3 years that they lived in this house with this family to collect evidence. And it was absolutely insane, the amount of things that happened there. And then the last one, it's a classic. I think it's actually free on Audible right now if you want to listen to the audio version, but it is the Amityville Horror by Jay Anson. So if you want to go over the
Amityville. May have heard of it.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So that one's a classic. So you can go check out that one as well. But there's a whole bunch.
Thank you for doing that. Anna Campbell's asking, what is the one thing you wish you had done but didn't do at a location that you investigated?
Left Rob behind.
I was going to say the same thing about both of them.
So much love.
No, I mean, I guess it's just something I've already said, and it would be just doing the Conjuring house with a smaller team. But I think every time you leave a location and you learn more, as we do, we learn every time we go, then you want to go back and implement that into one of the previous investigations that you did. So there's always something you want to go do again. But sometimes for us, it's just as easy as we wish we got better B-roll footage, or we actually pressed record instead of not pressing record. There's
even earlier on in the investigations that we did when we first started out, I wish that we maybe were a little bit more patient, because we would go into these haunted locations and we say, this is a haunted house, let's see some hauntings, and we'd be in there 15 minutes and we're like, it's not haunted. But
patience is key in these things. I mean, every single one of these investigations, we go in with a game plan. And to a point where the last house that we investigated, which we haven't released anything on yet, other than some exclusive stuff for Patreon, was the Winslow House in Marshfield, Massachusetts. And this one, I finally wrote down a plan. I'm like, these are all the things that I really want to not forget to do, and different methods of investigating and different things that I wanted to do in each room. And that helped a little bit, but there isn't a single investigation that we've walked away from where I wasn't punching myself in the forehead like, we forgot to do that.
Sure.
It's fair. But I would recommend making a list, because that definitely helped.
Yeah, absolutely. Another question, Chucky Danger. What's the oldest time period you were able to place a spirit from?
The one that pops to my head, not a place that we've been yet, but when we do some of the research, Chillingham Castle had stuff from the 1200s to the 1300s that make it seem some real bad stuff happened at this particular castle, and the hauntings began shortly after. So, and the hauntings have been persisting to this day. So the one that we've covered for me, I would say, is Chillingham Castle. But again, there's some cultures that predate all of this that it could be further back than that easily.
Yeah, especially in New England, because there's so many so much history with Native American, the wars that happened and burial grounds and all that kind of stuff that you hear about all the time. So who knows how far back you could pinpoint something. It's hard for me to say which one, but I think Pavalia had about 1,000 years of history as well, because they used to have they used that island for executions way back in the day.
Oh, sure.
As well as like battles being fought on that island as well. So it's tricky. It's tricky. But pinpointing. Go ahead.
Anytime you have a location where you're finding evidence for the demonic, you're talking about an entity that predates human existence also. Sure. So if you want to go that route, if you have demonic evidence, then you're talking very old, ancient.
Yeah, so I would say, to go back to the Conjuring house, it's believed that something demonic is in that house. And if that's what we were communicating with, which at one point in the investigation, it kind of felt like we may have been towing that line, then possibly you're communicating with something ancient. So, yeah, I'd say that one probably takes the cake, right?
Maybe.
Didn't they try some, well, maybe tried several, but weren't there exorcisms performed on the Conjuring house as well?
I would assume so.
On the actual house or on people in the house?
Well, both,
I believe.
I guess.
Yeah, I believe so. In Andrea Perron's book, they said that they had the house exorcised, and they had the mother was also exorcised in the house. So
yeah, I think that was one where during the exorcism things started getting crazy, and
Roger punched Ed Warren
in the face and made him leave. Yeah. They left that part out of the movie.
Yeah.
Wow, that's some crazy stuff. I know that that getting to these locations is a lot of work. I mean, you're talking about you guys have gone to Texas. What's the furthest away you've gone on an investigation so far? Was it Texas?
I think so. Yeah, I think Texas was probably the furthest.
How do you decide on locations as a group? Is it just whatever's available, or is there a criteria?
You don't want to see that group chat.
We just yell at each other and insult each other until the last person without their feelings hurt wins.
The trick is we find a really small room and we all punch each other, and the last man standing decides where we're going to go. So we're going to New York on Sunday.
Oh, fantastic. What was it in New York? What were you going to see?
We're going to the Shanley Hotel in New York.
Oh, okay. That's right. You mentioned that. Over here, I investigated with a friend of mine over at the Davenport Hotel, and that's a pretty fascinating place. It's so beautiful. I don't know if you guys would ever come over this way, but it would be neat to possibly look into places like that. And God, what's that hospital? Oh, it's going to be gone from my head. I lost it, but there's so many locations all over the place. Do you have a limit to how far you guys are willing to go? Is it
no,
beyond financial limitations?
Well, sure. I mean, yeah. Obviously, we're all ruled by our bank accounts in that regard. But
yeah, if we could lock something down, we'll have to head down your way if that's what you're proposing. And
I think it'd be beautiful.
That'd be sweet. Yeah.
We'll travel wherever, and to be honest, our show, we've talked about the listeners and the followers and people that join Patreon. We literally take all of that money. Mm-hmm. No, we've never pocketed any money from the show. That goes back into us going places, buying better equipment for the show and for investigations. So as long as we continue to get money, the more and more investigations we can do and make sense of it and do conventions and stuff like that. So, yeah.
Our goal is to take Patreon money someday and investigate the moon.
Yes.
That's so much to ask for.
So we need more Patreon members. Yeah. Jesse knows how to build a nuclear engine now. We're good. Mm-hmm. We know how to get this started.
If those in your chat are wondering where this nuclear nonsense comes from, no, I'm not a nuclear physicist, but they troll me because we did an episode on Chernobyl and I decided to spend a good chunk of the episode describing how nuclear reactors work. So this is the joke that will never die.
You had me sold when I was on your show. I was like, God, this guy's a nuclear physicist? Whoa. I was impressed, man.
Wow.
I was like, man, I'm way outclassed here.
This is shocking.
What do these other two guys do? Oh, my God. It's like going to the prom in your pajamas. I felt like I was outclassed there for a while. But then when I got the punchline, I was like,
yeah. We have a new profession every week. We decide that we're a meteorologist or we're a nuclear
No, it's not meteorologist. Papa Squash just left it in chat. It is a weather observer.
No, you were the weather observer. I am a full-blown meteorologist.
Self-proclaimed.
Can't wait till the meteorologist community comes after you for the lack of credentials.
Oh, we got another question in the chat. The Appalachian Mountains seem to be one of the oldest mountain ranges in the world. Have you heard of hauntings at homes or businesses? What is your opinion of haunted businesses?
I think
in the Appalachian Mountains, or
I'm not sure. That it was kind of a. I'm not sure which she meant, but I guess have you guys investigated other than hotels? Have you investigated businesses?
Not in person, I don't think, but we have covered a few haunted stores. In particular, Salem, Massachusetts has a whole bunch of them that we've checked out and covered. They have a haunted liquor store. They have there's a haunted Harry Potter merchandise store that we covered. And pretty much every building in Salem, Massachusetts is haunted one way or another, including the businesses.
Yeah. And God, I just lost my train of thought. But yeah, there is a ton of haunted places. We covered Dubuque, Iowa.
Oh.
And there's a haunted brothel. That was a business the entire time. And that's a haunted location. So, I don't think there's rules to what can and can't be haunted if it's a business or not. You don't know what happened in that building, the thesis behind why that particular place is haunted. So, yeah, I think it's definitely a possibility. But that's the beauty of the show, too.
Sure.
I didn't know there was a Dubuque, Iowa, and then I start diving into this location, I know so much about the town of Dubuque, Iowa now, or some random place. We do cover big cities as well, but just being able to learn the actual history of every place, and that's one of the things that I tell people when they're like, "Well, I'm not really into ghost stories." I'm like, "Well, the thing you should do when you go visit a place is go on a ghost tour."
Sure.
Because you're not going to just learn about the haunted history. You're learning about the history of that place. I went to Nashville in February. I went on a ghost tour, and I learned so much about Nashville in general just from going on that ghost tour.
Sure.
And of course, I learned about the haunted history as well. But
right.
The ghost stories tell the nature of that town. Every town has a ghost story. And that's like our goal, is to tell every town's ghost story by the time we're 95 years old. And we kill Dave. We're going to kill Dave 10 seasons in just to spice it up a bit. But
we'll still prop his dead body up on his chair for the show. Yeah. Changing that up.
Yeah.
Chemistry is chemistry.
Just channel him back every once in a while. Yeah, you won't be forgotten, Dave.
Thank you.
A rare IPA you never heard of has a $5 donation. Thank you so much. I know we've had a couple throughout the show, and thank you guys for that. But he says hometown science stories. Sounds like he's coming up with another spinoff for you guys.
Yep. This is par for the course for a rare IPA you've never heard of. I made the mistake one day of drinking a Miller Lite on stream, allegedly, and I've never heard the end of it.
Is that why? That's why he's got it for his chat icon.
That's why.
Exactly.
I've never heard of it.
That's good.
It's another one I'll never live down.
Well, and why should you? Let's get to the next question. Chucky Danger, have you thought about doing an investigation of a giant burial mound or the serpent mounds?
That's interesting. I went to a burial. I don't know if you'd call it. I don't know if there's a different definition of burial mound, but last time I was in Greece, there was a tomb that they found in a mound. I might talk about two different things. What is a burial mound?
Well, I think it has to do with where they believe Native Americans had burial mounds where they interred their dead, but some people have speculated that these are giants, perhaps predating the Native Americans that are underneath these burial mounds, and so I think that's where he's going with it. But
okay, scratch that. I haven't been to a burial mound.
Okay, what were you going to say?
But those sound awesome. Oh, I went to it was I was in Greece. There was this it looked like just a big pile of earth.
Okay.
And it turns out that one guy decided to dig, and he found the tomb of King Philip. I believe it was King Philip. I might be getting that wrong. It was the father of Alexander the Great. And they found his tomb all gold and jewels and, like you would find in a tomb. So while we were there, we visited that. But apparently that's not what we're talking about. Not a giant, just a king.
Well, its Kings are pretty giant in some
One of
people's
the
eyes.
coolest museums I've ever been to, though.
Oh,
because they left it all in the mound, so you just go into the mound and check it all out. So pretty cool.
That is awesome. And then next up, Rachel gets it right. She did say yes in the Appalachian Mountain hauntings. So any businesses?
There's an abandoned theme park that's haunted. That's in Maggie Valley of North Carolina. Yeah. We haven't covered it on our show yet, but that is a business in Appalachia that is considered to be haunted. So that's going in my list of places to cover. But I think that when you look at the Appalachian Mountains, you have a large amount of very ancient stone that could possibly be retaining a whole bunch of energy, haunted energy. So sure. I think theoretically, yes, and probably, and there definitely are some businesses out there that are haunted that we will be looking into.
Yeah, the sky's the limit, guys. I mean, you can go pretty much anywhere you want, and I mean, you could pretty much probably just go anywhere and throw a rock in any direction, and you're probably hitting something that's haunted.
Yeah, you can just go into pick a town, walk into a diner or a bar, and start asking around, and I would be shocked if less than 50% of the people didn't have a ghost story. Like everyone's got a ghost story everywhere you go. I mean, Rob went out to Block Island, just wore his hometown ghost story shirt, and people were just stopping him in the street to tell him all their ghost stories.
Yeah, I was on the ferry over there. I think by the time I landed, 5 people had come to tell me their ghost story. Then just everywhere I went in town, they're like, "Do you do a ghost show?" I'm like, "Yep." They go, "You here filming something on Block Island?" And everyone was coming over to tell ghost stories. Literally everyone. It was great because you learned so much about a place. I selfishly went to Block Island that day because I was like, what's a place I can cover, but I can go on like a mini day vacation for myself. So I went there not expecting to find much. Mm-hmm. The people from Block Island Ghost Tours were amazing. They brought me around. They showed me a bunch of stuff. And Block Island, Rhode Island is one of the most haunted places and most beautiful places you can go to. So if you ever get over there, definitely take the Block Island Ghost Tour because they will tell you all about the hauntings and the Palatine, and it's an amazing one. It's one of the episodes of ours you should go check out. You should go listen to all of our episodes.
You should.
That one twice.
In particular.
Twice.
Yes. And Block Island's definitely on the short list of places that we'll go back to. Actually, we got some stuff coming up that we'll probably go back out there. But they were very accommodating over there as well. They gave us like a car and a house. Mm-hmm. So wow. Now they've set the bar for when we come down to investigate with you. All right, we want maybe 2 cars, 2 houses.
You're gonna have to sign your house over to us and your cars, and then we will do a 5-minute investigation with you.
Absolutely. What if I told you I live in a tent? But I'm willing to move out for you guys.
As long as we can tell people that when we got there, you gave us your house.
Yeah, sure.
We don't have to talk about the logistics of how nice it was.
Yes.
Absolutely. David Zeismer asks, have you ever investigated Minnesota? Oh, thank you, Eliza.
Yes. Yeah, we did.
We haven't investigated. We've covered. So there's a difference between what we've covered and investigated. But we do have at least one Minnesota episode, but we have not been out there.
Is that the Glen Sheen Mansion?
I believe so.
Minnesota? Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
We have covered it. Whether or not it was Glen Sheen never means to be Sheen. But it was,
oh, my God.
There's one place in Minnesota I want to get to as well, and that was I had the lady, the owner, she came on the show, on the podcast. She's the owner of the Boyd House. And I know several of the shows have gone through there, but a really nice lady. And it sounds like, I mean, she's very accommodating and very reasonable as well. So I'm hoping this summer to get over there. And like I said, I'll extend the olive branch to you guys if you can make it. If I can secure that, you're welcome to join me. That'd be a lot of fun.
I don't think we've been banned in Minnesota yet, so I think we can make that happen.
Well, as soon as Rob steps foot in Ohio, he's gonna have a band of people waiting to
I know.
Demand some answers out of him.
Ohio is the worst state in the country.
I'll tell you what, Ohio is one of those that's it always comes up in every phenomena in the paranormal. It's like, oh, Ohio, yeah, they got the Grassman, they got UFO stuff, and they got so much paranormal and haunting stuff. It's crazy. I don't know what's going on in Ohio.
We joke about it, but like Ohio has some of the best hauntings like in the country.
Oh yeah, so,
crazy. You got to go to Ohio.
Yeah, it's a whole thing.
I heard nice things about Cincinnati.
Cincinnati, yeah. I'm sure it's wonderful. I don't think I've been there. But, gentlemen, we got about a minute left. Can you take a minute and let people know how to stay in touch with you and what you're doing?
Yeah, so hometownghoststories.com. You can find the podcast everywhere, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. We're on YouTube as well, so you can search the videos. We do put a lot of work into the video portion, so if people can do that, then connect with us. But yeah, we're
you can join us live on Tuesdays at 9 p.m. You can be part of our chat as well. Don't stop listening to Paranormal Portal, because this is an amazing show as well. But our nights don't overlap. You can come join us Tuesday nights at 9 p.m. You can join our Discord as well, and our Patreon has some exclusive stuff on it as well.
Well, fantastic, guys. It's been an absolute blast having you here. Thank you so much for coming on and being a part of the journey. I really appreciate your time and your companionship, keeping me company here.
Dude, you're a legend. This has been great. It's fun to just sit around and just talk about ghosts for a long time, man. It's awesome.
Anytime, we'll come back as long as your chat doesn't ban us.
No, they love you guys. I mean, they were coming up with tons of questions for you, so I guess you've earned their seal of approval as well. But yeah, we'll keep doing crossover shows and stay in each other's sphere of activity, and by God, we're going to do some amazing things in the future. I can tell.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's link up. Let's do an investigation.
I like that idea. I really do. I'm very sincere about that. So I hope you guys are as well, because that would be a blast.
Absolutely.
Plus, I think you have more toys than I have. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Hope you guys had a good time. Obviously, this is a great night. 3 guests, wonderful guests, amazing discussions. Get out! All right, guys, thank you so much for joining us here on tonight's show. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Please feel free to follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/Paranormal Portal Radio, as well as finding us on Twitter. We're on Twitter at Paranormal Portal, Portl. And we'd love to have you stop by our YouTube page and subscribe and check out our shows there. We got hundreds of shows, Journeys into the Paranormal Portal. So I hope you'll check it out, guys. We're over there at youtube.com/Paranormal Portal. So hope to see you guys soon. We'll be back, of course, for more podcasts in the coming days. So we love you all. Be good, be kind, be nice. Take care of each other. Help each other out. Find the magic in every day. And remember to laugh as much as you can.